Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday, and welcome to episode or book number 75 of Saturday Morning Storytime Live. Tanya got this book for me. Next weekend, I have to take off, but I'll be back the next 2 weekends. I'll be reading other myths. Myths are my absolute favorite. I taught them, dramatized them, analyzed them, used them to teach story. They are our oldest stories. And because they're thousands of years old, they're refined, they're perfect because they were passed down, refined. They got feedback, of course. They have wonderful messages. And also, in the case of Ishtar and Tammuz here, it is a Babylonian myth of the seasons. So before science and, just looking at the sky, this beautiful sky without city lights, artificial illumination, um, questions about all these kinds of things, including the seasons. So it's nice to get back in touch. They're beautiful stories. You will see that this story has a lot in common. It overlaps pretty closely with Demeter and Persephone. So these went from civilization to civilization and got refined. So as the weather's cooling, we're going to be in the 80s today, and then we're going into steady 70s here in Northeast Ohio. So I thought that this was a good book for today. So Ishtar and Tammuz. It's written by Christopher Moore and illustrated quite beautifully, as you'll see. You can already see here from the cover, by Christina Balit. So here we go. Ishtar and Tammuz, a Babylonian myth of the seasons. In long ago Babylon, 4,000 years past, Ishtar was worshipped as queen of the stars and goddess of all creation. No being was more powerful, more beautiful, or more terrible. Kind of reminds you of Kali, the multi-aspect goddess. No life without death, which is also great for the seasons. Ishtar held the power of life and death over all. Sometimes she brought storms, hail, and thunder down upon the earth. Sometimes in her darker moods, she brought down the terror and destruction of war. So very much like Kali in that way. And there she is with her lines. It's just so beautifully illustrated. Ishtar sent her son Tammuz to live on the earth. Wherever he walked, the earth brought forth fruit and crops and the green of the land. The birds and animals followed the sound of his flute for sheer joy, and the people welcomed him and loved him dearly. They called him the Green One. So now we have, if you think about the Green Man, you have other, Celtic and other mythologies there too. From the heavens above, Ishtar watched her son with content. Just absolutely gorgeous. And the detail, the colors, the textures. But as time passed, Ishtar began to feel that Tammuz was adored too much and that his power was rivaling her own. Her heart hardened, and calling her messengers of war and terror, she ordered them to kill Tammuz. So the jealous god trope. Ishtar's servants struck Tammuz down with their curved swords. The sun hit its face as the young man's blood ran down and seeped into the earth. Tammuz descended to the dark underworld, the home of the dead, where Alatu, Ishtar's sister, ruled. Alatu welcomed him with grim pleasure, for she hated her sister, who lived in the light of the sun. So Alatu kind of is the analog of Hades in the Greek myths. On the upper earth, after the death of Tammuz, all growing things withered and died. The crops and grass shriveled, leaves curled and fell, the birds fell silent, and the earth grew barren. With Tammuz gone, a dull sadness came upon the world. As the rivers and springs ran dry, hunger and thirst followed. The unhappy people cried out to Ishtar, and as each day passed, their prayers grew more desperate. So the desolate land. I was watching Rings of Power, the first episode last night, and when evil or tragedy strikes, the land is, often think of the Fisher King, for those of you who know the Grail myths. Finally, Ishtar heard their prayers. When she came down to the earth, she found the trees bare, the meadows without grass or flowers, the birds huddled and silent. She saw the sad, tired faces of the people and heard their laments. She saw their offerings upon the altar of Tammuz, the clouds of incense and the uplifted arms of the priestess. Ishtar, queen of heaven, cried the priestess, be merciful and let Tammuz walk again amongst us. He is the green spirit of the land, the source of breath and birth. The priestess set fire to the offerings, and the smoke rose to the sky. Just those colors. Ishtar's heart was touched with pity. She spread a robe over the people and whispered into their hearts what she would do. She would go down to the kingdom of Balit, just like Demeter, and do battle for Tammuz with her sister. Drawing on all her strength and power, she began to descend to the realm of darkness. As she departed, the upper earth became chill as winter. It was as if love itself had left creation. So, of course, the underworld, the unconscious, the subconscious, really, if you want to talk about it in Jungian terms, Joe Campbell did so much with the hero's journey, going into the cave that you fear to enter. Down and down Ishtar went until at last she came to the cold, grim city of the dead, with its 7 walls and 7 gates, where her sister ruled. That 7 is so prevalent in mythology, even the Bible, Revelation and all. At the sight of this forbidding place, her courage almost failed her. No living thing she knew had ever returned from Alatu's realm. But she thought of Tammuz, and she was filled with the strength of her love for him, the foreboding underworld city. Or you can think of Mordor. At the first gate, Ishtar called out to the watchman, I am Ishtar, queen and goddess. Open so that I may pass. The watchman replied, give up your crown and you may pass. It is Alatu's command. Ishtar was furious, but she had no choice except to obey. At the second gate, she was made to surrender the necklace of beads at her throat, the symbol of her power over the night heavens. At the third gate, she had to give up her pendant earrings, but she thought still of Tammuz and went on. So this is very interesting as she goes through this disrobing process, the trappings of office to expose just her base self. When she came to the fourth gate, Ishtar's bracelets of gold were taken from her wrists and anklets. At the fifth gate, she had to surrender the jewels from her breast. At the sixth gate, she put off the girdle of her birthstones. At the seventh and last gate, she had to leave her silken gown. As she passed through the gates, one by one, she heard again grim doors being shut and bolted behind her. So, stripped of all her royal splendor and powers, Ishtar entered the very heart of the citadel. So this is a very popular trope in myths. She's just in her gown, all those sparkles and bangles and scepters and wands and necklaces, and with all their meanings and their symbolism are all away, and she just has to be stripped bare, so to speak. So Alatu, goddess of the underworld, half woman, half lioness. So in Egypt, that is Sekhmet, sat upon her jeweled throne surrounded by snakes and salamanders. She laughed triumphantly to see Ishtar come defenseless before her. Beside the throne, Tammuz sat as if half asleep. He did not seem to recognize his mother. Ishtar stood before Alatu and bowed her head. She fell on her knees and pleaded with her sister for Tammuz, but Alatu only laughed at her. Let me at least touch my beloved son, cried Ishtar. No, screamed Alatu in fury, but too late, for Ishtar had leapt past the guardians of the throne to the side of Tammuz and was embracing her son, the tears streaming from her eyes. So here we go, here, there, and there is the, like I said, like Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess, and she's surrounded by snakes and all kinds of reptiles and all, and but the snake is the snake of wisdom, Medusa, with the snakes coming out of her head, or Sophia, the goddess of wisdom, a consort of a snake. So sometimes these things get corrupted. We have to keep that in mind. Bathed in Ishtar's warm tears, Tammuz felt the waters of life touching him once more. He awoke, clung to his mother closely, that Alatu's guards could not separate them. Take him, cried Alatu bitterly, but do not think you have overcome my powers. You may both leave my realm, but on one condition. Tammuz must return to me for 6 months every year. The same deal with Persephone. Ishtar and Tammuz had to agree. Together they hurried back through the 7 great gates. One by one, Ishtar's queenly gown and jewels were restored to her until she stood, crowned once more, outside the realm of the death. Then mother and son climbed through the dark caverns toward the upper earth. So the trials are over and you ascend back upwards. The return in Hero's Journey terms. When Tammuz stepped out onto the earth above, he kissed the ground for joy. Warmth and new life poured into creation. Songs rose in the throats of the birds, and the animals broke from their deep sleep. From this time on, so it would be to each year. When Tammuz was summoned back to the underworld, cold winter descended on the land for 6 months. But with his return each spring, nature woke again with joy. The trees felt the pulse of new sap, and every seed in the ground stirred. Among the people, a new liveliness was born. Dance and music filled the houses, and in every farm, village, town, and city, thankful prayers were offered for the return of Ishtar's beloved son, Tammuz. Just beautiful. So thank you for staying with me. That was a little longer maybe than some of the others, kept you a little more than 10 minutes this morning, but I hope you enjoy it whenever. I know lots of people watch this after the fact because it's very, very early for actually most people. So our friends in California, it's 6:30 in the morning. So hopefully you're all still snuggled in bed. Everyone have a wonderful, in America, have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. All the rest of the world, you have a wonderful weekend too. And I will see you in 2 weeks.